It's my great pleasure to introduce you all to Reverend Chimyo Atkinson. I'm just going to offer you a brief biography. Chimyo was ordained by Reverend Tejo Munich in 2007 and received Dharma transmission in 2015. She received her monastic training at Great Tree and completed Sotoshu international training periods in Japan in 2010 and 11. She completed additional training periods at the Aichi Senmon Nisoto in Nagoya in 2012 and Ryumanji here in Iowa in 2014. Chimyo served as head of practice at Great Tree Zen Women's Temple and volunteered with the Sangha at Avery Mitchell Correctional Institute until 2020. And I'll just say, just on a personal note, I had the great pleasure to practice with Chimyo in Japan during one of her angos. And Chimyo's teacher Tejo, I've met on a few occasions. She came to the Zen Center where I trained at in central Pennsylvania as a guest teacher, as well as to my Shuso ceremony. And Chimyo and I presently work together on the Soto Zen Buddhist Association board on the membership committee. So we've been interacting in that way as well. But I want to offer Chimyo an opportunity to share anything you'd like to share about yourself before we get started here, or before you offer your talk, or if you want to just dive right in, that's fine too. However you'd like to do it. No further ado, I hand it over to you.
Okay, well, I'd just like to say I had the pleasure, the honor of practicing with Daishin. How long has it been? It was like 2010 or something like that, such a long time ago. As he said, in Japan, and also with Jisho in Japan, at Yokoji, a couple of years later. Part of the topic of my talk is influenced by those angos and the people that were there. And Daishi and Jisho were very much a part of what I'm thinking about in terms of harmony and kindness and all the things that, you know, come up for me when I think of those angos. So I'm really glad to be having the opportunity to practice with them again tonight. And also Daishin, Dayen-san, Benaj, his teacher and my teacher were very good friends. And Dayen-san, I know she's not well right now, used to visit us. You know, she visited us a couple of times, more than a couple of times, down at Great Tree, and was also a great influence. So I feel a great tie to both of you. And I'm grateful to be able to meet your Sangha tonight. So thank you for inviting me. I like to start by reading a little something from the Bendoho, not the Bendowa, not the list of questions and answers, but the Bendoho, from the Eihei Shingi. And this particular essay of Dogen's is one that is known for all the little rules and regulations of how to live in a monastery together. But it begins with this paragraph, this couple of paragraphs, that I think are probably the most important part of this essay. Please excuse me, my glasses do not work, but do my best. All Buddhas and all ancestors are within the way and engage it. Without the way, they would not engage it. The Dharma exists and they appear. Without the Dharma, they do not appear. Therefore, when the assembly is sitting, sit together with them. As the assembly gradually lies down, lie down also. In activity and stillness, at one with the community, throughout deaths and rebirths, do not separate from the monastery. Standing out has no benefit. Being different from others is not our conduct. This is the Buddha's and ancestors' skin, flesh, bones, and marrow, and also one's own body and mind dropped off. Therefore, engaging the way is the practice enlightenment before the empty kalpa. So do not be concerned with your actualization. It is the koan before judgments. So do not wait for great realization. I don't remember reading this before I went into the monastery for the first time. I probably should have read it, or if I read it, it did not resonate. The reason why I'm holding it right now is because I have, well, this has been almost a full year since I left my semi-monastic life at Great Tree. And I find myself out here wondering, kind of floundering, kind of feeling alone in practice because of COVID. You know, I'm not able to connect with the communities I'm around right now. I'm in New York and Great Tree is way down south in North Carolina. Zoom and all these little, you know, screen parties are cute, but very different from the practice that I'm used to. Very different from the relationship I've had with Sangha and practice over the past 2007, oh, I can't count, decade and something that I've been ordained and doing this practice. What I go back to always is my monastic practice. It's been a big part. It wasn't a big part until it became a big part. I don't think I went into it with the understanding of what I was supposed to be learning. And I don't think you can in this situation. When I ordained, I didn't go into it understanding what was going to happen. There's no telling what was going to happen, how this was going to move inside me, how this was going to change, not just by life in the world, but the life that is trying to connect with all that other life that's sitting right here. When you go into the monastery, you're kind of thrown into a group of people that are just random. You don't get to choose. It's like being born into a family. You don't get to choose who's there. You know, you don't get to choose how many. You don't get to choose what they believe. You don't choose what they, you know, where they come from, what language they speak. It's just a group of people placed in a situation or placed in a container for a certain amount of time. This is a very important practice for monastics. I think it comes all the way down from the Buddha's time. It's changed its form probably many times as it went through the world, through different cultures, through different people. Um, but always it's a group of people with this intention to walk the Buddha way. All of them, all of us having some idea or expectation of what that is different from another. And we have to learn how to navigate that path with all the luggage that we bring. I do remember bringing a lot of luggage to that first Ango, most of which I didn't use. Um, all the luggage that we bring, all the baggage that we bring, all the ideas that we bring, the habits and prejudices that we bring. And when you get there, you know, we have to, there's a, being in monastic practice is like learning how to, you got to learn how to do everything all over again. In the Bendoho, you know, Dogen goes through, you know, the whole day as to how you're supposed to get up in the morning, how you're supposed to lay down, how you're supposed to get up and fold your blanket, how to stretch your back, rocking back and forth, you know, how to go to the bathroom, the gata you say when you go to the bathroom, so on and so on. There's another essay in the Shingi that tells you how to eat, tells you how to address your seniors and how to address your lowers. It tells you how to sit at your desk and what to do when you sit at your desk and how to address to someone who is sitting at the desk if you walk in the room. Details. But in between all of those little details of telling you what to do and how to do it, how to wash your face, there's these little admonitions, little reminders. Sorry, I live in New York, and New York City is the place where all of that happens outside. So please excuse the noise. As I was saying, in between all of those instructions are these reminders not to disturb the assembly, not to disturb your fellow monks, to wash out the sink in a certain way so the next person that comes can use it, not to make noise in the shuryo or in the study hall, to when an elder or when a senior is present and there is a task to do, that you rush and do it. Or that if you're sharing the task, that you make sure that his burden is lighter than you, or her burden is lighter than yours, because they're senior. There are other places in the Shingi that tell you, if you're a senior, that you have to look after your juniors, and that is your responsibility to guide them in the way that they should go, or to how to correct them when they make a mistake. A whole lot of responsibilities and roles around taking care and making sure that everybody has the opportunity to achieve enlightenment, or whatever it is that we're supposed to achieve. When I think back at my time in the monastery, that I had this idea when I first came out of these angos, and these are practice periods. When I say ango, it's a 3-month practice period that is sort of like the rains retreats. If you read the stories of the Buddha, There are months when they are cloistered together and live together during the rainy season. These are a version of that. And these training periods, what was I going to say? They're not a long period of time to live and get to know people, but you do. And I had this feeling that I wasn't supposed to talk about them because it's an intimacy with people who are there trying their best to overcome their egos and their history and their baggage, trying to let go of things. It's a very deep, sort of intense practice. And not everybody acts well. You know, there was a lot of, I'm sure, everywhere, monks behaving badly, maybe not responding in the most beneficial way always, okay? And so I thought it was something to keep quiet about. And I do. It's not like, I want to spread everybody's business. Not that there was anything terrible going on. It's just that it can be a very emotional time as well, being far from home and basically relying on strangers every day for your well-being. And that's the rub, We are all there being very vulnerable in a place where we didn't make the rules, where even the most basic of our behaviors, eating, washing, moving about, in the between the buildings, the clothes that you're wearing are absolutely different than what I was used to anyway. And I'm sure some of the others. In one situation, I was the only person for, maybe a week or two that didn't speak Japanese and nobody else spoke English. And here I am relying on this group of people, trying to follow and not stick out, trying to follow and not become a burden, but trying to follow and also be a benefit to them. It occurs to me that in this situation, the life of a monk is not all sitting around drinking tea and blissful meditation. There's a lot of work going on. And all the work, every single part of what you do is to take care of the temple and the bodies in it. If you work in the kitchen and there are 35 women in the convent, you are responsible for the health and well-being and the fullness of the stomachs of those 35 women. You have to produce something that will take them through that day. If you are in, a different part of the temple, if you're in the Buddha hall, you're cleaning and taking care of the instruments and the cushions and everything else in the Buddha hall for the benefit of the brothers and sisters who are going to be sitting on those cushions and pursuing the Buddha way on those cushions. If you are cleaning the toilet, you are cleaning the toilet for the benefit of those beings. Everything is directly for the benefit of everyone around you, whether you like them or not, whether they like you or not, whether they are the saint of the Ango, whether they are the demon that is causing all kinds of trouble for the Ango. All with the same heart, with the same intention of benefiting them, of helping them to attain the Buddha way. And sometimes if you are honest with yourself, and this is another thing that I found in monastic practice for myself, there are times when I just had to stand still and realize and be honest, that my heart was not as kind and not as open as it could be. That my scheming, egotistic brain was making all kinds of plans and to, make myself look good or better somehow than others, breaking every single precept, every single day, at least in my mind. But then the bell would ring and I'd have to drop that and I'd have to do my task and put myself into that task. And that's the practice again and again, dropping that because the bell rang, no other reason. Not because you're suddenly a good, kind-hearted person, because the bell rang and that's where you go. Practice. Until it becomes a part of you, a part of your body, and part of the way you move. And also, what I found for myself in practice, I'm trying not to talk too long, is at the end of that 3 months or whatever long period it was, however long period it was, I was 5 months in one place, God help us. Yeah. At some point, we all have to get out and leave. And depending on, where you're from and who you're with, some people you will never see again. Once they get on that bus, once they get on that plane, get in the taxi, whatever, and they never see them again. And yet, I'll tell you, I was in a convent for a while, and I had a lovely friend of me who we had a sort of rivalry going on. And I won't go into all of it, whatever. And there was a point where I realized that was happening. I was denying it the whole time. We had this little game. She sat right next to me at the table. And in putting your oryoki together and taking it out and putting it back together, you had to finish in time. We were all the way at the end of the table because we were really low ranking in that particular ango, in that particular practice period. And so we had to eat our food and make sure that we weren't holding up any of the table, and so that everybody could get packed away and the meal could be over. So there was this little race we were doing and washing our bowls, stacking them, wrapping them, and who would finish first. And I swear to God, I didn't know I was doing it until I knew I was doing it. So sometimes she would finish first, but sometimes I would finish. And they came to this point where this particular day where something happened and I was kitchen crew and I had to go back into the kitchen to do something while we were doing our meal. And so when I got back, I was a little behind everybody else. And it came to the point where there's a point where you have to wash your bowls and everything. And I was not going to be ready, to wash my bowls when the water came. So I got the tea kettle because you pour hot water into your oryoki. I'm not going to sit here and try to explain to you right here, but I had to pour some water in there, and I wasn't ready because they're still pulling my bowl. And I actually hesitated. I saw myself hesitate before I passed it to her because I didn't want to give it to her, and I was going to get left behind, and she was going to win again. And I gave it to her, and she actually stopped and looked surprised because she didn't expect me to do that, I guess. But, I did what I had to do, put my bowls under the table, put the bowl full under the table, and, did my best to clean up and whatever as the water went on by. And after that, I could let go of that panic, because I didn't even realize the panic that I would feel when we get to that point to wrap up our bowls, and I didn't associate that because that's not me. Yes, it is. That is exactly me. And it didn't see it until she let me see it. Maybe not, she didn't do that for me, intentionally. She had her own baggage she was worried about. She had her own race that she was running. But I saw it because of that interaction that we had all those months. And from that point on, that panic that I felt was gone. When I left the monastery, okay, she was still my frenemy. There's still things going on even after that. Who goes first, who should go first, or whatever, all that kind of stuff. And when I left the monastery, I left the convent. I was the only one leaving on that particular day. And I walked out of the gate. I'd said goodbye to everyone inside. And I walked out of the gate. And as I'm going down the hill, pulling my suitcase, I hear her voice, Chimyo-san. It sounded so far away. And I turned around and she was there waving to me. My best friend, my Mara, but my best friend. And tears just came. I couldn't go back up the hill. The suitcase was moving. I was a little far away. And she didn't come down. But we stood there waving to each other for a good couple of minutes. The last person I saw, she still writes to me to this day, sends me little packets of tea. We have this little deal where we send each other a letter and a cup of tea. A little packet of Twinings from me, a little packet of something I can't read from her because she's still in Japan. She's she stayed in Japan and continued in the monastery. But it's like that. I feel great love for the people I remember their faces. I don't know much about them still. And yet, we took care of each other for all that time. The other part that I remember is, sharing a room with a whole bunch of people. You don't get your own room in a monastery. You sleep on the floor. And in the convent, I was in this little room with 8 other people. She still remembers being in a room with a whole bunch of people too. I was there. I remember she slept across the room somewhere over there. And the room was so small that we had to kind of figure out a pattern for us to be on the floor each night, And I slept, the space was so small that the space where I slept, my feet were in the closet. That's how small it was. And when you got up to go to the bathroom at night, because the futons were so close together, we slept on, futons on the floor. There was no floor space. And so you dig your foot underneath the futons until you felt in the blankets, until you felt the tatami underneath, and dragged your feet, so that you wouldn't step on somebody as you walked through, and you could feel, I remember being able to feel it some nights. We were so close that I could feel someone's breath on my ankles as I passed. Her face is right there. Her hand is right there. Don't step on them. Don't tread on them. Be careful of them. It was always in my mind. It didn't mean, that, but it wasn't a special relationship, but it's the relationship that we have to learn, I think. Feeding people, caring for people, being careful of people, not disturbing with assembly, giving everybody their chance, their opportunity to know freedom, know liberation, to be enlightened. Don't like that word so much these days, because I'm not sure we know what it means. So what was I supposed to be learning there? And why do I feel a little bit like I still haven't got it? And what does this have to do with folks that don't go to the monastery? Because I don't think you have to go to the monastery to learn this. But monastery just makes it a little bit, it's like a crash course. You get to go, and that's all you work on the whole time. Looking after and caring for people, looking after and caring for the sentient beings around you, and beyond that, all sentient beings. It's for carrying out, we think going to monasteries to learn ceremonies and things. And you do learn that, but really it's trying to learn what's between the lines of all of those chants that we say, all of those fascicles we have to read, all of the sutras. It's learning to embody all of that every day, every minute. When the bell rings, you just go. The fear and jealousy and competition dissipates. And you go and you fix the food, and you fluff the cushions, and you sweep the hot-tub porch, and you clean the toilet. and you bow to the person that just called you baka, whatever, whatever she calls you. You bow and you continue. So I'll try to wrap up here right now. When I read this beginning of the Bendoho and the rest of it, and it says in the very beginning, do not be concerned with your actualization. Do not wait for great realization. Just go and take care of your brothers and sisters, says Dogen. When I read that and I think of the world as we live in it and how we live in it, you know, monks maybe have, Zen monks maybe have the easy part of it. We get to go to the class and just focus on that and just do that every day, taking care of each other. Out in the world, it's a little more difficult. And I think that's what I'm finding interesting in my life right now, since I'm not living in a monastic practice right now. It's a little bit difficult because there's a whole bunch of stuff that gets in the way of that real connection of what we're doing in the world. We go out to work, you know, we go to work to drive the bus, or we go to work to, you know, do the accounts, or we go to work to be a lawyer, or we go to the, you know, to school and teach, or we go to an office and push papers around, or whatever we do in an office, or social services, whatever. And at times, because there is the end goal is not stated that we are benefiting other beings, because no matter what work you're doing, it better be benefiting other beings, otherwise why are you wasting your time? But there's this money part that's connected to it, and we have to work hours and all of this kinds of stuff. And sometimes it's real easy to forget that the whole point of the job that we're doing, whatever it is, cleaning the streets, writing up the mortgage, whatever it is for the benefit of other beings. It's so easy to forget that sometimes because there's so much else roaming around, and because the chanting doesn't come up every day, you know, unless you're, and you know, if you're doing your practice every morning at 6 o'clock, you know, before you go to work, yay for you. But a lot of people don't have that. And sometimes we don't have the time to put that in our lives. And so it becomes a little confused what we're doing. But even in that sense, you know, the whole point is to benefit all beings, at least the person standing in front of you. So we do this practice, you know, whether you do it daily or you show up at the Zen Center once a week when we get to show up at the Zen Center, or you do the Zoom or whatever it is, in order to not worry about the actualization, but to go out there and when the bell rings, respond. When the person comes to us for help, respond. When there's a toilet to be cleaned, respond appropriately with your full self, with the intent of walking the Buddha's way. very difficult, lifelong practice. It never ends. And here we are. So I think I'm going to stop there. And I hope I did not speak too long or too short or whatever, because I have no sense of time. I'm so sorry. But if there's anybody, if there's time and there's anybody that wants to say anything, anybody that needs to add or correct or however, please do. And thank you so much for listening to me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chimyo. As you were talking and sharing about your monastic experience, I couldn't help but call up memories of my own, and I find it so helpful, especially that we're doing everything on Zoom, and it's such a different kind of experience that we really need these stories of how we actually live together, because doing it on a computer, it's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And but just as you said, uh, how do we do this? How do we do this practice when we're not in a monastery?
Mm.
So, anyways, I can share more, but I want to let Sangha folks, if you have any questions or comments to make, please do. Now's the time to do it.
Thank you so much for everything today.
Hey, this is Minnie. I just, first of all, wow, that was so powerful. And yeah, I've got so much I would like to say, but I'm not going to talk too long. But I want to say that it really touched me. A couple of things. One, how genuinely honest you are, and thank you for that. Because I tell you what, I try so hard, from getting up in the morning to going to bed at night, and sometimes I don't check all the boxes, right? And it's so hard. So it's so good to hear that, even when you're in a monastery, the struggle is still real, and the struggle is so real. And the second thing I would say is what you said and admitted about how difficult COVID has made it. I mean, right before we jumped on, I was in a meeting with my team at work, and we're really hurting. We got burnout bad. We lost 2 members, just lost another one today. They left the company. And so the things that you said, for me, resonated. And yeah, this is the way we're living right now is so different and so difficult. And there are real struggles, interpersonal ones, and just keeping a team together. And I just want to thank you for your honesty, and stop yakking, but thank you so much. I needed this today.
I just appreciated the allusion to this idea that meditation is going to be some blissful thing. And that's such a common, I just find that I come across writings that give you this sense that that's what it is. And especially teaching I'm teaching a community college level class. And we're talking about world religions, and inevitably the discussion of Buddhism goes to nirvana equals bliss, or enlightenment equals bliss, and I'm reading this stuff and I'm like, that's not actually my experience. And there's a much wider context that academics are really missing, and their writing is influencing how we understand Buddhism more than the people who actually practice it. And it's distorting our understanding of what practice is. So I just love that you brought up the Bendo Ho, and that the first couple of paragraphs is, don't worry about your actualization. Don't worry if you understand that you're a Buddha or not, if you can see that or not. Don't worry about that. That's not, and this whole emphasis on what are we doing to serve sentient beings? How are we, that's our goal. And keeping that in mind really is, can be really challenging. So the monastic container, there's that unity. That's where the unity is, in the monastic container. But we can do it. We can do it in our lives in general too, if we keep that in mind, that we are doing this for the benefit of others, to the best of our ability. And there's no shame in screwing up and not being perfect about it, and getting into a fight and getting angry and all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I kind of, I haven't dropped the word. I mean, there's no other word that I can put in there, but the word enlightenment, we have this idea that it's some kind of escape from samsara. It's removing and nirvana is moving away from samsara or whatever. But in the meantime, here we are in samsara. Here we are working with this, working with the imperfect, working with, the things that we like and don't like, working with a world that is not in our control in any way, and having to move through it with the equanimity that is also talked about, while being a benefit to all beings. And you can't be a benefit to all beings unless you're able to release and let go and be liberated from that ego drive that keeps us from actually serving other beings, actually, experiencing loving kindness, because not because of some enlightenment or something above that takes us above and away from the world. I don't think we're meant to look away from the world so much. It's as to have a different perspective on the world, where, as I said, we act appropriately. We do what's of benefit to beings in a way that is not serving our ego necessarily, or serving ourselves or all the time, not based on whether we like or dislike, but because bodhisattva, I can't express it. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go to sutras. I don't know. Sometimes the language and the language that we have around it is so inadequate. Enlightenment is inadequate because it encompasses all of these things that keep us engaged with the world. It's okay, I'm going to go off on all kinds of tangents, because it's also, the coming back, what, if you think of the, what is it? The ox herding tale. You're coming back into the marketplace. You're not leaving the world, you're coming back. And with, I don't know, I mean, with enlightenment, I don't know, but definitely with loving kindness and compassion and all the stuff that you've been practicing this whole time with that poor ox, and that poor, and with yourself, I don't know. I don't know how to express these things, but.
So I'd like to second other people's thanks. Feels to me like each of your words is connecting. Doesn't quite matter so much exactly what you're saying at any moment, but it feels like each each word is connected. So I'm grateful to be here.
Well, thanks for being patient with my inarticulate.
But my sense of this was such beauty and truth you spoke. And I particularly really listened to how you articulated the moments when you were in the dorm and the care that you took about not stepping over somebody, or just that I'm inarticulate. So just that whole moment of you expressing what you had done in the dorm when your feet were probably stuck in the closet or whatever. And I was visualizing all this, and I was also visualizing how wonderful we could create a world like that. Such beauty, such love, such because you mentioned, I don't know how many times, repeating that we live here for the benefit of all beings. You have given me the courage. Thank you.
I really agree with you. I mean, not that it was any great saintly thing to do, but just the simple adjusting of your feet so that you don't hurt, wake someone, not even just to let that person have their rest. Put on your doggone mask. That's all.
Yeah.
Simple little things that
you got it.
All you have to do.
Yeah.
Ask. Yeah. Pay your taxes. What? Whatever. For the benefit of all someone else, of anyone. Yourself included. So and sometimes it's just that little bit.
Yeah, we have lost that, I feel, in many respects here in America. And that makes me very sad. And your talk has given me some strength and courage and I feel more renewed to go out again and just be present with love and compassion and understanding, which sometimes I'm not. Judgment comes into place. So thank you.
I'm just noticing we're about at time. One other thing I just want to mention here is the appreciation for mentioning the various rituals that accompany daily life in a Zen temple. And get from waking up in the morning, brushing your teeth, eating, washing your bowls, washing your face, using the bathroom, how to connect with your seniors, all of those little details, and I think it's worth studying it. It wasn't until I was in a monastery that the shingi, the rules, the regulations really made any sense whatsoever. It's like I was like, why would I want to study this before I was in a temple? It didn't make any sense. But once I was in a temple, it made complete sense. It's like a roadmap for I'll use the word enlightenment. It's a roadmap for how to get on in the world, talking about harmony, right? And I think equally, if we can bring some of these practices into our daily life, when you're waking up in the morning to recite a gatha, when you're using the bathroom to recite a gatha, when you're washing your bowls, you're cleaning your own heart. And I think the more we can fill in our daily life with these kinds of practice, we create that kind of container. And so I just like to see us do that more. And if folks want to hear, if you want to know more about that part of Zen practice, it's far more than just sitting on a cushion. And I think you guys get that. But there's details that are missing in, over Zoom. We just can't do it. But anyways, just some food for thought. So I'd like to have us close, first of all, with deep thank you, deep gratitude to Chimyo for joining us this evening. and then to dedicate the merit. So in the chat box, I put the after dedication for Dharma talk. So you're welcome to join me with this, bringing our palms together. May this merit extend equally to all, so that we, together with all beings, realize the Buddha way. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, mahaprajna paramita. And closing 3 bows. All right, folks. Thanks again for your participation, your practice this evening. Keep at it, and we'll see you next time. And Chimyo, again, great thanks, and thanks for sharing all those wonderful stories from your practice time in the monastery. It just feel like I got some dose of extra vitamin B or something there. I don't know what it is, but all right. Take care, everybody.
Nice to see you, Chimyo-san.
Nice to meet everyone.